Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. It's about that time we have that conference realignment conversation. Now, if you guys are not new to the channel, we haven't really talked much about conference realignment for, I guess, two reasons. One, I'm still not sure how I feel about it. We're going to get into that. And then two, a lot of it has just been a lot of smoke. It's been a lot of rumors, but we do seem to have some real breaking news as the Oregon Ducks and the Washington Huskies are going to be moving to the Big Ten. And I want to have two conversations. One, how do I feel about conference realignment as a fan? Realistically, I'm just a college football fan that enjoys watching all the conferences. Going to give you guys some of my takes about that. And then where do I think college football is going, right? College football is changing at a very fast pace. I mean, you have NIL, you have conference realignment. What does college football look like in 5 years? Those are two things we're going to be talking about now. Before we get into it, one, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Again, can't thank you guys enough for all the support you've shown. But more importantly, let me know in the comment section, as just a college football community, college football fan community, really interested to have that conversation with you guys, whether you're a Florida State fan, Clemson fan, Oregon fan, Michigan fan, as I am, USC fan. Would love to hear from you guys about how you feel about college football and the conference realignment and where we're going. Now, let's dive into it. I want to start with how I feel just as a college football fan. It's bittersweet. There are things I'm excited about, but there's things that I'm really going to miss about college football. Let's get to the things that we're going to be losing or missing, and that is the rivalries and the tradition. And you take a look at why college football is so special and why it's my favorite sport on the planet, and it's not even close. It's because of those rivalries. It's because of the tradition. You're going to lose some of that inevitably, right? You take a look at the Oregon State rivalry, the Washington State rivalry. You go down to Oklahoma State. It sounds like we're going to be losing some of those rivalries that make college football so special. I'm a Michigan fan, but whenever Washington and Washington State are playing or Oregon and Oregon State are playing, I'm going to be tuning in. Like, rivalry week at the end of the year is some of the most special stuff about college football. And that does seem to be breaking at the seams in terms of the old rivalries and the old traditions that I think we all love so much about the sport. So that's the bitter aspect of it. Now, getting into the sweet aspect of it, you are going to get some really exciting changes in college football. And I'm always going to be excited for college football, so I'm going to take kind of an optimistic lens cuz I love it. You're going to get Oregon, you're going to get Washington, USC, UCLA, all into the Big Ten, and you're going to see just a little bit more competitiveness within the conferences, right? I mean, Michigan, when they play Ohio State, they play Penn State, you've got Nebraska, maybe if they're having a good season. But outside of that, it's like Michigan will roll Rutgers every single year. They'll roll Northwestern every single year we play them. So you do have some really uncompetitive games within conferences that you're probably going to have less and less of as these conferences kind of realign and join essentially are super conferences, which we'll get into. So as a fan, like, you're going to wake up and see on a Saturday, you're going to drink your cup of coffee and you're going to be kind of excited for just a loaded slate, I think, every single week in college football. So yes, you lose the rivalries, and that really does hurt as a college football fan, as a Michigan fan, but more importantly, as a college football fan, losing some of those rivalries hurt. But I do think that you're going to have week in, week out, more exciting matchups within conference play. Right now, I want to talk about now where is it going. I want to touch on Clemson and Florida State. So you have Oregon and Washington moving to the Big Ten, and you have Florida State and Clemson either moving to the SEC or the Big Ten. And I don't know if we know where they're going yet, but it seems as if they're not staying in the ACC. So what happens? We had those Power 5 conferences. I think it's hard to argue that the Pac-12, they might name it the Pac-12 still. That's not going to be the Pac-12 anymore. If they want to grab San Diego State, they want to grab Boise State, whoever they want to grab, that's a conference that is substantially lower than the Big Ten or SEC right now. And then you look to the ACC, and you pull away Clemson and Florida State, that is a conference that also is not what it used to be. And if Miami leaves too, I mean, you're looking at the ACC being like, what is the national brands that are attracting you to that conference? I mean, for a very long time, Clemson and Florida State, you had Florida State going on a run, and then you had Clemson going on a run. They've kind of dominated that conference for years. So you lose Florida State and Clemson. They're two biggest brands of college football. The ACC suddenly kind of falling apart at the seams too. So you're stuck with the Big Ten, the SEC, and the Big 12. I have like a small little graphic here that is I can barely read my own handwriting on. You have three conferences, and then what I want to have that conversation is what does the Big 12 look like? Because the Big 12, I mean, I love Texas Tech fans, like TCU fans, though UCF fans have been absolutely awesome. That being said, the Big 12 is just doesn't seem like it's on even close to a playing field that the Big 10 and SEC are now that you've had Oklahoma and Texas go to the SEC. Now that you had USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington joining the Big 10. So what it seems to me as just a simple college football fan, again, not a sports business insider at all, is you got two big conferences. You got two super conferences. You got the Big 10 and you got the SEC. And then the Big 12, I mean, is kind of sitting there as maybe like that subset along with the ACC as like a subset. But as a college football fan, I mean, you could be a Texas. I'm a Wake Forest. I went to Wake Forest. I'm a Wake Forest football fan. I wouldn't even try to argue that the ACC is on the playing field of SEC or the Big 10 right now as we speak, especially if Florida State and Clemson are not in the ACC. So what I see is that you're going to have two super conferences between the Big 10 in the SEC, and then you're going to have maybe some smaller conferences scattered about. But what does that look like, and what is there to be excited about that? Kind of going back to you're going to see week in, week out, like some phenomenal college football games and some different looking college football games, like Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan Wolverines traveling out west to play the Oregon Ducks in Eugene. Like that is you'd be lying to yourself if you weren't just a little bit excited about that. Or USC fans, we've had a ton of conversations about that. The USC Trojans coming to Michigan in the beginning of November with some snow on the ground and playing Michigan in the Big House. You're going to see a lot of new things in college football where you could be really excited about that, but also miss kind of some of the historic rivalries. And that's, I don't mean to get too philosophical here, but that's kind of just how the world works. Like when changes happen, you can be really excited about some changes, and you also at the same time can miss a lot of things. And you're not exactly wrong. Like you can miss some things, but be excited for the future. And that's kind of where I'm sitting. To circle back to how I feel, I think you're going to have two super conferences between the Big Ten and the SEC, and you're going to have a lot of change. You're going to miss some of those rivalries, but there is a lot of reason to be really excited about the future of college football and seeing some of these really intriguing matchups. Not even talking about the SEC with Texas, Oklahoma playing that SEC schedule. It's going to be fun. It's going to be different. But I think for college football fans, we got no other choice. We got to get excited for what we're going to see because, hey, there's not much we can do to stop it. So, again, appreciate you guys listening to me kind of ramble on about my thoughts on conference realignment. Don't know too much, but wanted to hop on and just chop it up with you guys. So, again, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate y'all rocking with the boys, and we'll talk to you guys later. Peace.